Hey everyone, it's Lindsay and welcome back to my channel. Today I just wanted to do kind of like a fun little chatty video with you guys because I am in such a mood about my characters. Like, I'm very much feeling in love with them and I'm in the early drafting stage, right? And so it's very rare for me to feel very like in love with my books and in love with my characters at this point because like everything's pretty much reading like trash. But I don't know, I'm going through Bitter Bones and I'm kind of trying to finish it kind of quickly. So I'm doing draft 2 and 3 like at the same time, back to back. Draft 2 is basically like me bulking up the outline that is draft 1, right? And then draft 3 is when I really start to feel comfortable with the plot and I move on to refining the prose, adding in description, and bulking up my character voice. This is just when the characters start to feel real for me. They start to sing off the page. The first 2 drafts, the characters are there, but I'm not focusing on them right now. And like now that I am, it reminds me back to when I was brainstorming and I was making these characters and they were just like singing to my heart. I don't know. I also just wanted something kind of easy to film this week, and so we're just gonna do a self-indulgent chat about my main characters and do it in a little bit of a tag form. If I'm not mistaken, this tag was created by Katie, Wallace, and Devasha. I will leave their channels linked down below, and if they've done any of the tags themselves, I'll try to find them and link them down below too. I like these questions. They're very specific and very odd, which is exactly how I would have made the questions had it been up to me. Okay, getting into it. Because I'm feeling extra, I'm actually gonna do four of my main characters. Addie from The Glass Witch, Begonia from The Odds, Casey from Bitter Bones, and Mackenzie from Project Pyro. Jumping right in, question number 1 is, what is your main character's name? How did you choose that name? And how does your main character feel about their name? First of all, for Addie, I was going back and forth between a couple names for her. I wanted something that felt kind of old school, like it could be a family name that had been passed down generation to generation. And in fact, I was going back and forth between having her be called Addie, Penny, and Winnie, and I ended up going with Addie. Of course, long name Adelaide, which that does make it sound a little bit older, more aged, so it fit that perfect. And then her last name of Good just made sense. Add an E on it and it just sounds very witchy. I don't think Addie would actually like people calling her Adelaide. Like, I could see that's something that her grandma and her mom calls her when she's in trouble, and if you've read the book, then you know she has certain feelings around her last name because she feels like she doesn't quite live up to the witchiness of the Good name. And then we have Begonia Hollowmore. So Begonia got her name because she was actually found under a begonia bush at the nursing home she was abandoned at. She has the last name Hollowmore because that is the name of the manor house that had been turned into the nursing home. Begonia is also the name of my late bunny, who was also 10 years old and very grumpy and acted like an old lady, so it just perfectly fit her. She also goes by Bug. The guy who runs the retirement home, he is like her surrogate big brother or like a dad situation, and he calls her Bug for short, and I think it's very cute. I came up with the name Hollowmore after like a lot of work. I was playing with a lot of prefixes and suffixes and just like listing them out and then pairing them up and seeing which one sounded the best given the vibe of the story and what I wanted the manor to evoke. After a lot of playing and probably quite a few drafts, I think I settled on Hollowmore. She doesn't love her last name. She is named after someone in the manor that she doesn't particularly like, but I think that she would really like her first name because her favorite people in the world are her grandparents and they like collectively named her that. So next, let's talk about Casey. This is my main character in Bitter Bones. His name is Casey Wild. I came up with this name because I always like feminine names for boys. I think that that just like, I don't know, is cool. So he always has just kind of been Casey in my mind. However, that might change in the future because I think that there are reasons he would have like a different kind of name. So, but for now, he's still Casey. And Wild, just because I was playing with some different last names that I liked a lot that had like Welsh origins, and Wild just kind of worked the best with him and his mom, given that they're gonna have the same last name, and I liked how Wild sounded with his mom's name, and for him, Casey is just so basic, it like works with just about everything. I'm realizing that all of my characters have specific feelings about their last name because Casey too has very complicated feelings about his last name because it ties him to his mom, and in one way he like craves that and needs that and loves that connection with her, but then in another way he's just kind of like, yeah, I wish my name was different. I wish I could be like my own person, like forget the past. And then lastly, in my YA thriller, I have Mackenzie McCollum. This is another one where her first name might change, but I just chose Mackenzie because it's a decently popular name being used in like the 2001-2002 era, and McCollum because I like the way that it sounds, and also it is Irish, and Mackenzie is Appalachian Irish descendant, so that just worked really well. And again, like all of my main characters, Mackenzie has very complicated feelings about her last name. In the holler that she grew up in, McCollum is synonymous with like power and authority and fear. Her dad is like a big kingpin in the area, and so through the whole story, Mackenzie is kind of grappling with being who she really is and living up to her family name, or being who she should be. And I think that's really like played out metaphorically with like how she feels about her last name. Question number 2. What is your main character's zodiac sign? It's funny because before this question, like some of them I knew just like right off the top of my head, and the others I had to like really spend some time to figure out. Addie for me 100% has always been a big Cancer girl. She is huge into her family. She's very sensitive. She's very emotional, and she just gives off big Cancer vibes to me. The other character that I was like super 100% no is Casey. He is 100% Leo. He's like all bravado, a leader to a fault. Like think, I don't know, think like big like Gryffindor vibes where there's just like loyal to a fault, savior complex. Mackenzie is 100% an Aries. She's very fiery, very fearless, very driven, and she's 100% like the act now, think later, impulsive type girly. But on a positive side, she's also like extremely passionate, and that comes in when you like deal with her and her family and how she feels about them and how she'll go like to the ends of the earth to protect them. Begonia was actually a little bit harder for me to decide on. I had to write down some notes so that I could kind of figure it out. I wrote down assertive, calculative, independent, relentless, ruthless, introvert, and homebody energy. She had a lot of like Taurus going on. She had a lot of Aquarius going on, but in the end, I went with Capricorn because I think that that fits her best. Question number 3. What is your main character's relationship to the people who raised them? At the beginning of The Glass Witch, Addie is living with her mom, and she has a very close relationship with her mom. She has an aunt and a grandmother who her and her mom are both estranged from, and no relationship with her dad. She doesn't even know who he is. For Begonia, she's so fun. She has 53 grandparents because she was abandoned at a retirement home. So all of them are equally her grandparents, and then the, like I mentioned, the owner of the retirement home is kind of like a surrogate dad, big brother to her. She has a nemesis, Miss Marjorie, who is the head nurse at the retirement home, and the manor itself is sentient, so it's kind of like giving big golden retriever energy if the golden retriever was like a little haunted. For Casey, he never knew his dad, so he doesn't have a relationship with him. With his mom, he has a bit of a more complicated relationship because she wasn't around a lot during his childhood, and then she also kind of went missing, so there's just this kind of like weird, she wasn't a good mom, but now she's missing and I should help her, but should I type situation. So it's very complicated. Because of that, Casey's mom's sister, so his aunt, took him in, and she's basically the closest thing that he has to a mom, and she had 2 daughters, and those girls are basically like his siblings in a way. And then let's talk Mackenzie, who maybe has the most messy home life of all of them. She has barely any relationship with her mom. Her mom's MIA because she has a drug problem and just kind of like dips out whenever, sometimes for months at a time. Her mom's mom now lives with them and takes care of them, and is kind of like Mackenzie's mother figure in a lot of ways, but she's constantly working to support the family. They're very poor as well, so the grandmother has to work like a bunch of jobs, like 60+ hours a week, to try to feed the kids. Because the grandmother is gone so much, Mackenzie a lot of times feels like she was raised by her older sister Ava, and Ava is her half sister from her mom, who is like maybe 3 years older than Mackenzie. Ava also has a 3-year-old daughter who's a big part of Mackenzie's life at the beginning of the novel. She's kind of like her motivation to do better and get out of her situation so that she can like give a better life to Ava's daughter. At the beginning of the novel, Ava has been missing for years at this point, and Mackenzie is trying to like figure out what happened to her. But my favorite relationship of Mackenzie's is the relationship that she has with her father. Now, at the beginning of the novel, he is currently in prison. Like I mentioned, he's kind of like the kingpin of this holler. You don't mess with him, you don't mess with his family. He's the big bad on these hills. He's not a good guy, and he's not a great father or partner or any of these things. However, he does love all of his children, including Ava, who is not technically his, but he raised her as his own. He loves all 3 of his kids in his own twisted, warped way. Because Ava's mom is not really in the picture and the grandmother is working so much to keep the family afloat, a lot of times the only true parental figure, and definitely the only male figure of like authority and love in her life, is her dad. So even knowing all of the terrible things that he's done to her and to her mom and to her siblings, she still really loves him, and like he takes like this like god like figure role in her mind. It's one of my favorite parts in the book because she wants to show her dad that she's as ruthless as him, that she can own up to the family name, that she can like, you know, be about her business like he is. But then there's a part of her that's like, oh, I shouldn't be this way. I should be like a better person for my niece and for my grandma who worked so hard for me to have a better life. But it's like, I am that I am. Question number 4. What is your main character's most important memory prior to the start of your book? The funny thing is, I actually use sharing early or pivotal memories as a device to build my characters and my stories. So most of them are actually like in the book themselves. Addie's is probably learning the like creepy little nursery rhyme that is actually a curse that surrounds her family. So it's evil devours, there's nowhere to flee when the good witch numbers err over 3. For Begonia, there's a really cute couple scenes with her and David where he is kind of teaching her to deal with her pain and learn that being disabled is not a dirty word. And yeah, they're really beautiful scenes in my opinion. Casey's you also get to see in the book. There's a flashback where when he's a lot younger, his mom is gifting him her first doll creation, and that's kind of like a big moment for her, a big moment for him. Mackenzie's memory is a bit spoilery, but that would be what happened the night her sister disappeared. Number 5, your character walks into a library. What section do they head to first? Addie 100% would be middle grade fantasy. I think she would be a big reader. I think she would be really into like Witchlings and Percy Jackson, Amari and the Night Brother. Like I feel like she would be the type of girl who would like just like squeal over books with her friend, and I love that very much. For Begonia, she's a bit of an old lady, so I think she would be going to the nonfiction section and looking for knitting patterns or maybe some trivia books because she does really love trivia. Casey 100% is going to the horror section. He is a horror writer, an aspiring horror writer. He loves writing his little spooky short stories, and so he's gonna go in the horror section, and he's probably going to try to sneak into the adult section and check out some books that he's too young to get, and then like hide them under his coat when he comes in the house so that his aunt doesn't know he's like reading these illicit books that she probably wouldn't be happy with him reading. Like probably like a Stephen King or 2 is like hidden in his backpack, you know? Mackenzie's a bit different for me. I think if she's going to the library, she's probably, I don't know, she's probably using it to like for the computers or for the music or something like that. I don't think that Mackenzie is a reader, and I think that because she's had a very shoddy education, and I don't think that she would be a very good reader because she doesn't know how, because she struggles with it. So she probably thinks she doesn't like reading because she's not good at it. But I could see her maybe like listening to a podcast or listening to an audiobook about like true crime. Question number 6, I love this. Would your character survive the Oregon Trail, and how? For Addie and Casey, no, 100%. They're dead 2 weeks in. The typhoid would be running rampant because they are so close with their family. They just want to spend time with their family. They don't want to be away from them. So they would just get sick and die along with everyone else nearly immediately. RIP. Begonia, I'm gonna skip answering this. If you've read the book, you know why, but there's just certain circumstances that I want to stay away from, and yeah, just read the book. Mackenzie, yes, she is my one character who would 100% survive the Oregon Trail. She would show up crawling her way, bloody fingernails, I mean twigs in her hair, just filthy, starved to death, half dead from dysentery, only ate horse meat and mud, but she would arrive. Number 7, what would your character ask for if they made a deal with a crossroads demon? This is such a fun question because it's like, what does your character need to learn in their novel? Like that's like the answer to this question, right? So for Addie, it would be she would ask to have magic worthy of her family name. Begonia, for her, it would be to have magic strong enough to save her family. For Casey, bless his heart, I think that he would want to wish to have his mother back in his life because she's like missing, you know, but in reality I think it's that he would wish that his mom would choose him for once instead of him always having to choose her. It's very emotional. And Mackenzie would 100% wish for her sister to be back, and if for some reason that was against the rules, then she would ask for the sole responsibility of seeking the revenge on every single person who was involved in her disappearance. Number 8, what would your character think about on their deathbed? For Addie, I mean, it'd probably be her family. Like, I think that's her reason for everything. Although if we're gonna take more of a comedic stance, she probably would be like, man, I wonder who's in charge of the catering at my funeral. She's a big baker, and she would want it to be like something good, something she would approve of, or else she would have to come back and haunt everyone. For Begonia, not applicable. Go read the book. Casey would 100% be thinking like, God, I hope I come back as a ghost. Or just something like horrific in general, like he'd be turning it into some kind of like horror story in his mind. And for Mackenzie, if that girl's on her deathbed, we've all been dead for weeks. I hope I've adequately exposed to you how deep and messed up my psyche is through all of the weird as hell characters I've created. Anyways, thanks for hanging out with me and listening to my self-indulgent waxing poetic of all of my characters. I really think more people should do this tag because I'm nosy and I love to learn about characters. It's the reason I write, it's the reason I read. So if you want to do this tag, please go ahead and do it. Consider yourself tagged, or if you've done it already, let me know and I'll come watch your video. Let me know down below if you would survive the Oregon Trail. I think I definitely would. Even if I had to like eat my companions to survive, I think I could do it. Like, I'm disabled. I've been training my whole life for hardship. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Dysentery? Typhoid? Like discomfort? Chills, not sleeping, exhaustion. These are our daily lives as disabled folks. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and my 2 books featuring Addie and Begonia are available for order down below. You should totally read them and then you'll understand everything that I was talking about. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.